Hi everyone, welcome back to the Grow Paradise Garden and Nursery, and as you can see we've made some good progress on our Paradise Patio project. Now this is our small patio area that we're trying to make feel lush and tropical. We're sticking to a budget, and I'm going to say about 60 to 70% of the plants growing here are in pots, so this is something that you can replicate if you're somewhere that doesn't have access to soil, if you're on a courtyard or you've got a balcony. You can borrow some of the ideas here to help create that lush tropical style garden in your space. Let me share some updates with you. So I'm really pleased with how it's looking so far, but one of the first things we did to smarten up this area was to pressure wash the patio. Now, we don't have the budget to change the patio slabs, so we needed a budget-friendly way just to smarten things up a bit, and that was just borrowing my parents' pressure washer, doing all of these slabs that go down to the garden path, and it's just freshened it up and brightened up this whole area. Once that was done, we painted the shed and fences the same colour that we've got the rest of the garden. Now, this purple might not be everybody's cup of tea. This is a cuprinol paint, garden shades it's called. And this one, the colour's called Summer Damson. Now I really like the purple because you see a lot of people painting dark colours on their fence at the moment. A lot of people paint with black. And the whole idea behind that is that the dark colour pushes the boundaries backwards and helps the lush greens of foliage pop. It can help to make the space feel bigger. But black's just a bit too kind of dark and depressing for me, especially in winter when we want that bit of colour when some of the kind of deciduous and herbaceous plants have disappeared, and this purple last winter added that for us. So we've painted the shed that Summer Damson colour, we've freshened up the fence, and I've painted the picket fence, which I was saying I'm going to change, but by painting it, I think I'm happy with this for now. It's taken the pressure off for creating that Balinese style gate. It's something that I'd still like to do, but for the time being, I think that that purple picket fence looks okay. And I quite like these finials on the top. In the purple like that, it's taken it from looking like kind of a picket fence from Maine, New England, to something with quite a luxury Balinese style garden. I think they look really nice. And the purple is doing its thing. It's pushed the boundaries backwards and it's making those lush greens pop. The other thing with the purple is it's repeating some of the plantings. So you'll see behind that golden Indian bean tree there, there's a purple Sambucus nigra. That one's called Blue Sheen. And it picks up the colour of the fence really nicely. So it's adding cohesion, tying the whole space together. Then we've got other details like this Canna Tropicana red with this really deep purple foliage that is almost a perfect match for the picket fence behind it. So just having these colour repetition through the garden is tying the whole space together. And when I was painting the shed, I wasn't sure. It was quite a big, bold change. But now that it's done, and I've got the palm there, the bananas, a few other plants that I'll go into more detail in, I think it's combining really well. One thing that I've noticed is that these steel brackets look very agricultural now. Now they kind of contrast quite highly against the purple, whereas on the picket fence we've got black handles and hinges. So we've got some black metal paint, and we're just going to do the same thing here, just to tie it all in and smarten it all up. I think those little details can really transform an area. So with the patio pressure washed, the fences and all the woodwork painted, it was time to start slotting some of the plants together in a way that looked really well layered, really lush and really tropical. I love foliage, but at this time of year, when so many plants are pushing out flowers, it's just nice to build some flower power into your garden as well. Now, I said in the last video about our Paradise Patio project that my wife loves roses, and she defended them because I go through phases of I want the roses gone, I want it all tropical, but I'm so glad that she fought that battle because they really do look great and they're really fragrant as well. So when we're sat out in this area and the sun's beating down on them, there's just a perfume that fills the whole area and adds an extra element to the garden. It's not just about how it looks. If you can think about how it sounds and how it smells, it's going to really kind of liven it up for all of the senses. The sunflowers, again, that we've grown, it's just something that we've done ever since we started growing plants in pots when we lived in a flat. They've put on a bit of height. I'm not sure they're the variety that they were sold as, so we'll see what they look like when they bloom. So this bed here is a raised bed that we built when our garden was in a very, very different style, when we had the stream trickling down kind of from this space here all the way down to the bottom of the garden. So everything kind of there is planted into the ground in a raised bed. So the roses do really, really well. We're on heavy clay soil and they absolutely thrive. You can't just use plants that struggle or suffer in your climate or in your soil conditions. If you find a plant that thrives, add it into the mix, because it's going to make everything just look so much healthier, and it's going to take some of the pressure off you as a gardener. You're not going to have to struggle on to get your garden looking good. But to pick up on that pink, I've added our Brazilian plume flower. This is Justicia carnea. This is a tender plant, but it's got really nice foliage. It tolerates this partial shady position here underneath the magnolia. And this will put up pink plume-like flowers that will perfectly match that pink rose. This is Rosa aloha. It's got an amazing scent. And beneath that, this, and it's just budding up to flower now, is Impatiens tuberosa. And you can see there's some pink buds there. This is a pink flowering Impatiens. Again, shade tolerant, and it's not going to get much taller than that. So we should have pink Impatiens flowers here, pink Brazilian plume flowers here, that match this pink rose that's just going to flower and flower all summer long. This is a fuchsia that we bought from Hampton Court Flower Show. It's not budding up yet. It's hardy, it looks great. This has been in this bed for ages. Again, mixing in plants that look really happy and healthy where they are with some of the slightly more difficult and tender plants is a really good way to ensure your garden looks healthy. Another one of those plants that we use is this. Very common, very popular, and rightly so, Geranium roseanne. This is herbaceous, it dies back to nothing in winter, and then it just flowers and flowers and flowers all summer long, all the way through to the first frosts, and the bees absolutely love it. I've seen so many tropical gardens at this time of year, we're in coming up to midsummer, that are still looking just very green, they don't have much colour, and it's nice when I come home to see that mixing in what was my wife's cottage garden plants with the tropicals, it's actually created a look that's so much better than anything I've ever created before. That's my opinion. You've got to create a space that's good for you. You might hate these plants, but it's just an idea. Use some of the easier plants to add that colour. Fill up those gaps, because not every plant has to struggle. And then we do have, tucked in here, a tetrapanax, the large-leaved rice paper plant. This is a plant that is very, very easy, almost as easy as herbaceous perennials like this geranium and this fuchsia. And you get these enormous tropical leaves. Now this is in a pot. I think I'm going to just grow that in a large container so that I can move it around as part of the pot display. Now the area that's made up of plants growing in pots is this area here. Everything you can see is growing in a pot, which means you can replicate this if you've got a small courtyard garden, a balcony, maybe just an area out the back of your house. What I've done is used or recycled some large stones from previous projects in the garden and used them as like an edging front, and that hides the pot at the front. Then behind that, I put the first low-level plants. Plants like this Mexican cigar plant, some cannas. I've got my Samponiums there. This really nice Phytolacca lacaboon, which is just pushing up these kind of pink spires of flowers followed by dark berries, like these down here. These low-level plants create that first kind of softened zone behind the rocks, and these are all growing in pots, so I've just got to stay on top of watering and feeding to keep them flowering, to keep them healthy, because remember, compost will run out of food and nutrients after several weeks. If you start feeding, you don't necessarily have to put your plants on, because they can uptake all of those nutrients that you're adding into the compost. Potting them on will help them stay healthier and kind of dry out less frequently. But the feeding is really, really key. The Soteria palmifolia, Looks really nice. You can see the pot peeping out there, just kind of softening the edge of this corten steel water bowl. That giant fern leaf there belongs to Woodwardia radicans, a super hardy European chain fern that I thought I'd lost, but it's pushed out some really nice leaves through the foliage at the bottom. Again, growing in a pot. Seems actually quite drought tolerant. Once they're mature, you can grow them in containers and they don't need loads of water. In fact, you can see this kind of coppery bronze foliage is a new fern leaf pushing out from that giant Woodwardia. Then I've repeated that dark Tropicana red foliage here from this canna. It's probably a little bit too shady for it there, but I just liked the repetition of having one there, and you'll see that I've got a few more in this bed. That's a newly created bed on that side. Even the brugmansias, which I'm so pleased are chucking out flowers early in the season. This is Brugmansia docat, which is a double flowering brugmansia. So you get this one trumpet-shaped bloom, and then from that, another giant bloom emerges. This is another very, very fragrant brugmansia. I mean, a lot of the Suaviolens type brugmansias that flower in the heat of summer are very, very fragrant. So it doesn't smell that much during the day, but of an evening and through the night, it pumps out that fragrance. So when we're sat here watching the sunset, it smells incredible. And this one was overwintered in the greenhouse at about 5 degrees Celsius. It really stops growing, loses lots of its leaves, but at this time of year, I water it lots, daily, and I feed it at least twice a week with a liquid tomato food, because these are in the tomato family. And the idea between liquid tomato food is it encourages flowers, which are followed by the tomato fruits. So we can use that formula to encourage flowers on plants like this, and that goes for all flowering plants. Liquid tomato food is really, really good. And just look how tropical those flowers look. Now, brugmansia are always things that don't look in tip-top condition. Lots of people grow them and say they look like sticks with flowers on, and they can do. To be honest, mine have looked best when they're planting in the ground. They grow really, really healthily, and I have done that in the new bed on the other part of the garden, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But these ones being fed twice a week are pushing out flowers. I've got that one there, and then another yellow flowering form here. And I've kept them at this height. They're growing in pots. They're about 10-litre containers. Let's see if I can show you. There you go. You see the edge of the pot down there. 10-litre containers. They've been in those containers for 2 years. And this is what I mean about feeding your plants. It can keep them happy, keep them healthy. And I'm pleased that I kept them nice and tall. Normally I chop them right down to ground level to make them kind of more space saving for overwintering. But I wanted to use them to get a bit more height. I didn't anticipate having flowers this early in the year, but I'm so glad that I kept them tall. I'm definitely going to be doing the same this winter, and I've got some new cultivars that are supposed to have really good flower power. So I'm hoping to get a really good display again next year. Now, this euphorbia is a plant that I love. It's been growing in the garden for years, and I had to dig it out when we transformed the nursery side of the garden, and I containerized it. And it struggled a bit at first, but now it's giving us really good evergreen height at the back of this border that's combining with the larger brugmansias and other plants really, really well. And this is the key thing. I want this area to be kind of a mix of a lot of evergreens and then kind of the summer show-stopping plants, which I accidentally called summer plants then, a combination of summer and show-stopping. By having evergreens, it's going to look good and lush all winter long, because this area is right at the back of our house, so we're going to see it from the kitchen window, from the back door all winter. So if we can have evergreens like this Trachycarpus fortunei, mixed in with foliage like that euphorbia, it's still going to have that lush jungly look, even on cold, wet and windy winter days. So we've got this top layer, the brugmansia, the euphorbia. At the top here, I've got a Pseudopanax mower's toes. Again, a nice evergreen plant growing in a container. Then we've got the mid layers. Things like this young Trachycarpus. These aeoniums, really nice, growing on thick stems, good architectural plants. Again, this purple's repeating that purple colour. pest here. Where shall I put him? There you go. These mid-level plants soften that transition between kind of this front level. These fill the gap. And again, I'm going for a mix of foliage and flowers. So you can see these orange flowers bobbing about here. This is one of our abutilons. This is Abutilon Apfelsine. And I've just potted these on into some nice big, again, 10-litre pots down there with a good free draining mix. Abutilons love good drainage. In partial shade, you can see how many buds are there. This should flower and flower and flower all summer long. I've got a slightly taller one here. This is Abutilon Lily. Again, covered in these flowers. They resemble hibiscus because they're actually related to hibiscus plants. We've actually been growing these as part of the Grow Paradise Seed Club, which is our monthly subscription box where we help people propagate plants from seed at home. Every single month, we're all growing the same plants together so we can kind of share the journey and help each other out. And these have grown so quickly from seed. And the seed are all this form, the large flowering form. And these are actually hardy, they'll take -5. They do get knocked back in winter, but they quickly recover. And you can grow them up to about 2 meters tall, but it's best to keep pinching them out to get them nice and bushy and to get loads more of these flowering stems. But you can just see then that mix of foliage and flowers on this corner of the garden is looking great. And we do have some kind of hard ornaments and features as well. So the still water bowl here and this decorative ornament here really kind of add to it and add a bit of structure and a focal point. Otherwise you might get a bit lost and it might look a bit chaotic, but just by having these in your line of sight, it's giving the eye something to focus on, and then you can work around that. I love these caught and still water bowls. They just bring the sky down into the garden with that reflection of the clouds. We've got a spotlight tucked in here that shines into the bowl at night, so you get that rippled water lighting all over the leaf surfaces. And this was actually it's got a glass jar inside of it for holding candles. This was sold as decoration for indoors, but we've tried it outside and it's rusted really nicely. And I think this looks really nice in Balinese. And I always keep an eye out now. When I'm in kind of shops that have cheap home decorations, if there's something that's metal that has this sort of pattern, try it outside because it will age potentially really well and combine with things like that still water bowl really, really, really nicely. So that's this area, which I'm really pleased with. I love the flowers, I love the foliage, and I love how we're sort of losing the division in the garden. So you're just getting the banana and everything that's on the nursery side of the garden sort of acting like a borrowed landscape. It extends this small patio area beyond, and it's adding that height and movement. I wish the wind would stop because the banana leaves would stay looking pristine. But still, it's nice to have that height and those enormous leaves. Now on this side of the garden is a new bed. This was gravel, like this area here, with plants in pots. But last summer and the summer before, everything died. Terracotta pots just dried out so fast, everything struggled. So I got rid of the gravel, I dug in some soil. So now it's a shallow raised bed, which works for us. We're in heavy clay soil, so the drainage is not good. So by just lifting kind of the bottom of the plants just that bit higher is going to help with overwintering because they're not going to sit too wet because that clay level is a bit lower and we've got good draining soil up here. So this area, I was really undecided on how to plant it up and I kept overthinking it and stressing myself out. So in the end, I just went for it. I just started putting plants in, playing with it, moving things around, and I'll show you some of the thoughts that I've had. So first of all, I looked at what we've got to work with. So the last few plants in the nursery side of the garden is this beautiful golden Indian bean tree with these huge golden green heart-shaped leaves that contrasts against that purple Sambucus nigra behind it. They act as the canopy level there. They buffer the wind coming into the garden. And then below those, we've got this enormous evergreen Fatsia japonica variegata with these mottled leaves. So I wanted to try and extend that down into this side of the garden. softening that boundary there as much as we can. So the first plant that you've probably all spotted already is the Brassiops mitis. I've had this in a pot for 2 or 3 years and I was toying with what to do with it. Finally decided to put it in the ground. I might try and take cuttings this winter because I've now got 2. I'm a lucky person, I know. But these are great. They're hardy. They've got this really unusual foliage. And this one's got height, which is great. When you're creating a new bed, to be able to find something that's already got a good stem, good height, it can make an area feel so much more mature. Now, it got very windy here last night, so the leaves are looking a little bit battered. But I really do like that we've got height. Now, there's 2 other plants there that are giving height. First is this banana. I grew this from seed about 3 years ago. This is Musa cheesemanii. It's a really narrow-leaved banana. It has these purpley pink midribs, and there's like a silvery sheen to the leaves and a silvery blush that goes down the stems. You can see how silver the underside is compared to the standard Musa basjoo. Now, this is another high-altitude banana, so it's got potential to be cold tolerant. So it's planted in the ground now. It's got this lovely dark stem. So I will wrap this one with horticultural fleece in winter. But again, it was a seed-grown plant that's giving us instant height, and it's actually looking to be a lot more wind tolerant than Musa basjoo. Those narrow leaves haven't shredded anywhere near as much as the large Musa basjoo on this part of the garden, although at that height it is a lot more exposed to the wind. We've also got Podocarpus henkelii, a shrub that's quite hard to come by, but grown from a cutting. It's looking really good. I think I'm going to pot that into one of those big 10-litre containers because it will grow enormous, and because it's quite hard to come by, I just want to keep hold of it, really kind of be able to move it around, possibly put it into this part of the garden come winter so that we've got some really unusual evergreen foliage to look at. Again, that's why I love building displays from plants growing in containers, because you can move it around through the seasons, move plants that are fading away to the back and move kind of show-stopping plants forward. So here we've got another one of those Brazilian plume flowers. I've put this in the ground. It's been growing in a pot for years, so it's looking a bit sorry for itself. Now it's in the ground, it should really pick up. Again, really nice purple leaves, complementing the colour theme that we've gone for in the area. This is another plant I've grown from seed, Areopetraea japonica. This is the loquat tree, and now it's in the ground. Look at the size of the leaves it's pushing out. Now, I've got one growing as a tree in the garden, but I'm just going to grow this as a shrubby plant here. I'll keep pinching out the top so that it bushes out, and that should act as a really nice way to soften this corner and provide tropical looking large leaves all through winter. Another evergreen I've put in is our Fatsia polycarpa. Again, really nice tropical leaves, tough, and it will soften this corner here all through the year. And then I've just added herbaceous plants, kind of to transform this area in summer through autumn until we get frosts. So I planted these seed-grown Salvia Summer Jewel Red. They've got really intense red flowers. They've just gone over now. I've pinched out the top, so we should get lots of flowers. Again, these were grown as part of the Grow Paradise Seed Club, so myself and all of the members in the UK that sowed these seeds will be enjoying scarlet red salvia flowers that will bring in pollinators all summer long. I've grown so many plants this year from the Grow Paradise Seed Club that I've never grown before, and I didn't think it was going to do that for me, but it has. Then these plants that are in containers still are Fuchsia thalia, a tropical tender fuchsia, again with nice nice purple accents to the leaves, which is picking up on that purple theme. And then these have orangey red tubular flowers. Now what I've done is I've dotted these fuchsia, 1, 2, 3, because plants look good in threes, along the front. So it's going to bring that purple forwards, mingle it in with the green foliage, and really carry that purple theme through the garden. At the back of the border, I've planted lots of Salvia amistad. That's a purple flowering salvia that should sort of get to about mid-height here. So we'll have the purpley leaves, purple flowers, again bringing in lots of pollinating insects. And then in between those purple-leaved fuchsias is more of that really nice foliage of Canna tropicana red. Now I've got 1, 2, 3 of those in this bed. So as it matures, it should look really, really nice. I've always got to tell myself to be patient with new beds because the rest of the garden has been establishing for at least 5 years now. And a new bed can always look a bit like an incomplete puzzle piece with gaps and small plants that should be big. And I've just got to wait. They will fill out. There's one plant I've forgotten just as I'm talking there. That really nice dissected foliage is Geranium madarensi, which I've put right into the middle of this bed. And if it grows like the last one we had flower in the garden, I'm anticipating it's going to sort of get from here to here and up halfway, and it should have a crown of magenta flowers, which again will pick up with the pinks on the other side of the garden, trying to tie all of the sides together. Now I said I put one Brugmansia in the ground. That's this one here. This is Brugmansia, what's it called? Charles Grimaldi, which is a hybrid. It's branched, which is good. That's going to mean flowering is going to occur soon. That's a good tip with Brugmansia. When you get that Y formation on the stem, flower buds are soon to follow. And I'm hoping that because that's in the ground, that's going to get up to the height of the banana there, and we'll have loads of yellow flowers with a really nice scent in the evening. But it's a good mix of foliage there. Not too many flowers yet. We've got the flowers of the Mexican cigar plant here. Again, another one that I've grown from seed. And this just flowers and flowers and flowers all summer long. And it's getting repeated because we've got that one there and the one at the front here, which is repeating the orange from the Abutilon. I know I seem like a madman when I ramble on, but there is method behind my madness. And then in that tray, which wasn't supposed to be a permanent feature, but water was just sitting in it, so I sat all of the colocasias in there, so they've got nice wet feet, which they love, and plenty of sunlight, so we're getting nice leaves start to grow. We haven't really had consistent heat yet, which colocasias need, but we are enjoying some of this foliage for now. I might plunge these into the border as the season rolls on, we'll see. We are also toying with the idea of creating a bigger water feature here with running water so that we get that sound element of water in the garden. It was really nice. We were sat here one sunny afternoon, one of the few sunny afternoons we've had, and dragonflies were coming in, they were visiting the water, and it just really made me want to make more of a feature of that. I love the sound of running water in a garden. It's so relaxing. So that's where we're at with the Paradise Patio project. Lots of new plants that I've not grown before, definitely not grown in the ground before, that are picking up on the parts of the Grow Paradise nursery garden, the borders at the back here, and kind of bring it down into this space where we can now sit. If I go down to sitting level, you can see how nice and secluded it is. It's a really private patio area that we absolutely love. Hopefully you found that video useful, and there's some ideas in there for you to help inspire you to create your own tropical paradise. No matter how limited you are on space or on budget, there's tips and ideas there to help you out. Now, if you love growing plants like this and gardens like this, feel free to sign up to our free Growers Forum, where there's people from around the world growing plants like this and helping each other out. That's at growparadise.social. And if you're in the UK, you're welcome to check out our plant and seed shop. We deliver these plants all over the UK, and that's growparadise.co.uk. Thank you so much for watching. Hit subscribe if you found the video useful, and I'll see you all in the next one.